Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you're having a good day today so far, and I hope you had a good weekend. I had a pretty good weekend, and I had a really good week. First, I stayed with my mom most of the week while my stepdad was out of town working, and my stepsister was at church camp. So I went to stay with her so she didn't have to stay by herself. And it was nice being a lot closer to work and not having to drive so far and get up as early to make it there on time. So that was nice. But if you don't really follow me on social media, then you wouldn't know this. But I did get that other job that I applied for. And I start on July 25th. And I'm very excited about it. It's something new. It's really more of the type of environment that I would much rather work in than what I'm doing now. And not that I don't like my job. I like the people I work with. I like the customers that I work with because I like working with people. But it's just time to move on. There's nowhere to grow where I'm at. Raises are few and far between, if ever. And it's not sustainable. If anything were to happen and I had to just solely depend on the money that I make and not what someone else where I live brings into the household, where we have two incomes coming in. If it were just mine, I don't know what we would do. And it's just not sustainable. I need somewhere where I can grow, promotions, raises, benefits, all of that, more money, actually being paid what you're worth, what you deserve, and just being able to go in and just do your job and not have to worry about being over anybody. You're not a manager anymore. And, I think I'm really good at doing that. I feel like I've been a good manager in making the store, building it up and getting more customers and making more money and really helping with that, because the last manager that was there was just not friendly to customers and it ran a lot of people off. But when you don't have the same kind of power that a normal manager would have, so when it comes to hiring somebody or firing someone or writing somebody up for doing something wrong, I didn't have that, and I didn't have any backing on that. And you can't really be a manager if you can't really manage. So it's time to move on. I've done that for 11 years and I'm ready to move on. So anybody who knew that I was hoping to get that and asked for prayers for it, thank you. Okay, let us read our daily promise, which says, "How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! If I should count them, they are more in number than the sand. When I wake, I am still with thee." Psalm 139, 17 and 18. The Lord is constantly thinking about you, his child. His thoughts are always for your good. Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." He loves you with an everlasting love. Jeremiah 31:3. The Lord hath appeared of old unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. How great is the sum of your thoughts towards God? How much time do you spend thinking about him? Remember your Father's love for you. Recall your identity as his own child. Rejoice in him and take heart in whom you have been made to be, one of the everlasting sons of God. Also, I want to say to everybody who's been jumping on my channel on Rumble and watched my last podcast that I uploaded, thank you so much, because I got more views than I expected it to get. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but to someone who doesn't get very many views at all, because it's still building, I'm still building something. And I think the last time I checked, there was 155 views on it. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much for checking that out. Okay, so what I want to do is, first, there's a video that I want to watch from my Instagram, and I came across it, and it's titled "Woke Churches Thank God for Abortion," and I wanted to watch it, and I don't know if I can pause in the middle of it, being Instagram. Maybe I can, I'm not sure. I don't really do Instagram that much, but I want to talk about some of the stuff that they're saying. Let me get the volume up here.
As second-class citizens. O Lord, how long will women and girls be viewed as second-class citizens?
Let us pray. Giver of choice.
You have created us in your image and given us agency over our own bodies.
We pray for all who partner with those in need of reproductive health care. We pray for the loss of life yet to come from forced childbirth and illegal abortion. We pray for those who are not of the same mind regarding reproductive rights.
O Lord, how long will women and girls be viewed as second-class citizens? How long before women and girls will be able to make decisions for their own health and wellness?
Dare I say, if men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be a topic.
All the guys, let's all set appointments to get vasectomy.
Okay. First, let me just say, women pastors can get wrecked. Women should not be leading a church. Absolutely not. It is not biblical. They can be Sunday school teachers. They can clean the church. They can do women's Bible studies together. But to lead a church as a pastor, it is not biblical for a woman to do that. And this is why you have the problems in the churches that allow women to do that. It'll never work. It has never worked. It will always fall apart. So, besides that, go get wrecked. Secondly, if these men want to set appointments to go get vasectomies, by all means, please do. Because the less people like this reproducing children, the less people we're going to continue to breed like this. So if they're not going to even... getting vasectomies and then sex strikes, less children that will be born to these radical morons. So I'm all for it. Go get vasectomies, please.
Vasectomies.
We are women singing, waiting. We know pain.
And while some view abortions as babies being killed, as I once did before praying for a deeper understanding, laws that restrict and take away freedoms are never on the side of Jesus and a God of justice.
Okay. First of all, nobody is having a right taken away. I have discussed this before. It is not a right to kill your baby. Abortion is not a right. It's never been a right. It is not in the Constitution. I am still waiting for someone to point out to me in the Constitution where it affords a woman that right. It does not. So no right was taken away. And in fact, if you don't like the laws that the states make, because it's always been the right of the state to make these laws, that is all overturning Roe did, was give that decision back to the states. If you don't like it, move. Please, move. That means you are not the kind of person that we want living here. That's the same thing that you would tell someone that lives in a very gun-restrictive state. That if you don't like the fact that you're restricted of owning guns, move to a state that allows you to own them. That's exactly what you would say.
Because if the precedent is the Constitution doesn't talk about abortion, well, the Constitution also says I'm 3/5 of a human being. The Constitution also says that I don't have a right to vote.
Correction. That is not what the Constitution says, because we have these things called amendments. And amendments are put in to change things that were previously written down to now mean this. So, the Constitution was amended to afford everybody the same rights, no matter what race or gender, right? And everybody was afforded the right to vote, the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. There were amendments made to give that to everybody. So the Constitution doesn't say that either.
And as we continue in this time of gathering and lament, reproductive justice is what we cry out to the God of all for.
We will continue to be doing this work of reproductive justice.
Reproductive justice is what we seek, is what we pray for, is what we work for.
But if I could rock your theological noodle, I submit to you that my Bible teaches me that God is pro-choice also.
And some people will say, well, Bishop, you're a man of God. Are you pro-abortion? I am pro-human and civil rights.
Old Testament says, I have set before you life and death. Therefore, I'm not going to legislate the answer for you.
We live in a country right now where guns seem to have more rights than women.
I hate that phrase so much. Well, guns have more rights than women. Well, guns don't have rights. Those are inanimate objects. And I know that education is not the strong suit of these radical leftists. They're not the brightest crayon in the box. I get it, okay? Inanimate objects don't have rights. People have rights. And the Constitution gives people the right to bear arms. Explicitly gives us that right. But then there's no right to a woman getting an abortion. A woman is not given less rights among anybody else. It's just we're acknowledging, and finally someone is making the point with overturning Roe v. Wade that there is no acknowledgement of abortion in the Constitution. And if you want to allow it in your state, go ahead and do it. But we are not going to take that authority away from the states when it's not really our job. So, guns don't have rights.
If you're pro-life, you wouldn't be fighting for 18-year-olds to buy machine guns.
And that right there, that's gaslighting, okay? Because probably mostly everybody that's sitting in that church listening to him is stupid. And when he says that, well, you wouldn't be fighting for 18-year-olds to have machine guns. Nobody's fighting for 18-year-olds to have machine guns. Because guess what? No regular citizen can own a machine gun, no matter how old they are. So nobody's fighting for that. So that really irritates me, because everybody that's hearing that pretty much is so stupid that they actually believe that the right is fighting for 18-year-olds to own machine guns, when it's never even been a thing.
This is not just about reproductive rights. This is about voting rights. It's about civil rights. It's about human rights. This is just the beginning of a demonic agenda, and the church has to get in the gap.
So, wanting to save babies from being murdered in the womb is a demonic agenda. Yet on the other hand, we do have pro-lifers saying that killing babies in the womb is a demonic agenda. And that is actually true. Abortion is a demonic agenda. This is why you will find abortion clinics mostly in minority communities. This is why you'll find that all of this stems mostly from where it started, which I know that there were probably abortions that were done before Planned Parenthood came into play and all of that with Margaret Sanger. But she really was the progressive that moved this whole agenda forward, that really taught women, and especially minority women, that it's a good idea to kill your babies. And they believed her, and they still believe it to this day. She was so successful in convincing women to kill babies that it's so hard to change someone's mind. And when you show them the facts of who this woman was, and that she didn't like black people, didn't want them reproducing, or other minorities or disabled people, and that she was a eugenicist and a racist and an evil woman with an evil agenda, they still don't believe it. And they will continue to kill their babies because of what they've been taught. It's been brainwashed and handed down generation by generation. Okay, that was the end of it. I wanted to share that, and I had some thoughts that I wanted to say, and I was going to just do something on one of my, probably post up a quick video on Twitter or something, but I wanted to be able to, pause it and talk about it, and screen recording, you can't really do that, I don't think, and I don't know how to screen record very well. Anyway, so moving on. Let's talk about this idiot here. Our Office of Nuclear Energy. This is from Blaze Media by Courtney Weil. And now this is back from July 5th, but I still wanted to talk about it. So, in an op-ed published by The Advocate in September 2015, I just totally skipped a whole paragraph. A man who now has the chance to affect nuclear policy at the U.S. Department of Energy once excoriated the federal government for raiding a website that trafficked young, vulnerable boys as escorts. In an op-ed published by The Advocate in September 2015 and unearthed by the National Pulse just this week, Sam Brinton, the new Deputy Assistant Secretary for Spent Fuel and Waste Disposition in the Office of Nuclear Energy in the Department of Energy, wrote a scathing rebuke of federal law enforcement agencies for raiding rentboy.com, a now defunct website that reportedly ran an illegal prostitution ring that often sold the sexual services of young boys to much older clients. Brinton didn't see things that way, though. Back in 2015, he argued that federal agents, not the pimps at Rentboy, had thrown the lives of these young boys, quote-unquote, into turmoil. Quote, the raid on its headquarters has thrown many gay, bisexual, and transgender young adults into turmoil as their main source of income has been ripped away due to irresponsible and archaic views of sex work, Brinton wrote at the time. Archaic views of sex work? These are the people that are getting into power, and they think it's perfectly okay for an adult to have sex with a child. They are warped. In addition to condemning the practice of so-called quote-unquote conversion therapy, Brinton argued that taking these young boys out of the care of Rentboy and returning them to their families would endanger them. Quote, the Rent Boys weren't harming anyone, but now these young men might have to return to communities and homes which have rejected who they are, and that's when the real danger begins, end quote. I hate this word. The colloquial term Rent Boy refers to young boys who are paired up with older men, likely for sexual services. According to an indictment, Rentboy.com frequently flouted age verification processes and continued to promote advertisements for escorts whose ages could not be confirmed. Quote, in one case, after an escort agency failed to provide photo identification of an escort, a Rentboy.com employee advised the escort agency that he had deleted photographs with the face of the subject escort, but left the advertisement online and left photographs that showed only the escort's body, end quote. That's from the National Pulse. The indictment also reported states that former Rentboy CEO Jeffrey Hurant, who was arrested in 2015, told employees, quote, to apply lesser standards in doing age verification of Asia market advertisements, end quote. Yet, Brinton lamented back in 2015 that, quote, irresponsible and archaic views of sex work, end quote, brought the company to an early demise. Though that op-ed remained hidden when Brinton's nomination to the DOE position was announced back in January, Brinton has long been an outspoken LGBT activist working within the federal government. He has reportedly given lectures about quote-unquote kink on college campuses and claims membership in a Washington, D.C. drag club called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Though many outlets have claimed that the Biden admin appointed Brinton to the role at the DOE, Brinton denies that assertion. Quote, to clarify, I am not a Biden appointee, despite what was reported, and instead serve as a career employee in the senior executive service. I intend to be serving my country in this role through many, many presidencies. Gross. I hope not. I definitely hope not. So we know, I don't want to spend time on that. I just want y'all to know who's in power. On July 8th, there was a report written by Chris Enlow, an article for a House Democrat actually calling out Biden for sending American oil overseas and then to beg Saudi Arabia for more oil. And we've now come to find out that the company that got that oil in China is partially owned by Hunter Biden himself. So I'm sure that was just a scheme to funnel money back to Biden's bank account. So it says here that Democratic rep Ro Khanna paraded himself on Fox News Thursday to bash President Joe Biden for sending American oil overseas. American oil exports have increased in recent months, Reuters reported, driven by Biden's decision to release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. In fact, even some of the oil released from the SPR is being sent overseas. More than 5 million barrels were shipped to countries in Europe and Asia last month. Destinations included France, the Netherlands, India, and even China, according to Reuters. So what did Khanna say? So speaking on America Reports, the California Democrat admitted he does not understand why the Biden admin has refused to stop oil exports as Americans face record high prices at the gas pump. According to Khan, U.S. Energy producers are exporting 3.44 million barrels of oil per day. Quote, I don't understand why we're allowing the oil to be exported to countries like China when we need it here in the United States, end quote. He also said, I don't get that why a country that has a shortage right now of oil is allowing 3.44 million barrels every day to be sold. Before 2015, that was not allowed, and if you stop that, you would have a dramatic decrease in price. Later in the interview, Khanna also criticized Biden over his forthcoming trip to Saudi Arabia, during which Biden is expected to ask the Saudis to increase their oil production, which is reportedly already near maximum capacity. Quote, it's wrong. The president ran saying he would make Saudi Arabia a pariah state, that he was not going to engage Mohammed bin Salman. They're still engaged in a brutal war in Yemen, and I don't think that he should go meet with the MBS until MBS takes some accountability for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, and until they bring the war in Yemen to an end. Look at the irony. We're going to beg Saudi Arabia for oil while we're exporting our own oil around the world. It makes no sense, and the Saudis are going to play us. At the end of the interview, Khanna suggested, like many polls indicate, that Biden is not focusing on the issues that matter most to Americans. Quote, I do think we have to be doing more here. People in my district, they're talking to me about gas prices, about higher food prices. They're talking to me about the airlines getting canceled. Those are the issues front and center, end quote. And I think, did I save it? And maybe I didn't. I guess I didn't. I thought I saved it. It was a picture that had like a little map of something, and it said that this here, just this area alone could support oil for Americans for, I don't know, a lot of years. Okay. Moving on. Continuing to talk about Biden and his ridiculous gaffes, because the man is totally just, it's a shell of a man. Okay. He's not there. He's out. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So he was speaking at the White House about his new executive order on abortion, and he repeatedly lied about the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. So, for example, he claimed the decision, quote, was not a decision driven by history, and that the justices were playing fast and loose with the fact that the decision wasn't about the Constitution or the law, and that the decision to overturn Roe was an exercise in raw political power. Biden then read a quote from the majority opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, in which the majority noted the American electorate is comprised of a majority of women. After reading the quote, Biden said, "Repeat the line," a cue apparently on the teleprompter from which he was reading. Video of the speech even shows Biden leading into the camera to seemingly get a clearer view of the teleprompter. Let's watch.
Power. It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line. Women are not without electoral and or political, or maybe precise, not and or political power. That's another way of saying that you, the women of America, can determine the outcome of this issue. I don't think the court, or for that matter, the Republicans.
Okay, so he's an idiot, and they can't write cues on there because it's kind of like Ron Burgundy. Ron Burgundy reads everything on the teleprompter. So throughout his speech, Biden also said, end of quote, 3 times. In fact, after he recited a quote, end of quote, is a normal cue that appears on teleprompters to inform whoever is reading that the quote is over. Despite clear video evidence, White House Assistant Press Secretary Emily Simons claimed that Biden did not read the teleprompter cue, but rather was exhorting himself to repeat the line. She says, no, he said, let me repeat that line. Well, that's not what he said, because you could just watched it. He just ended the quote. He said, end of quote, repeat the line. So they're trying to gaslight you and even further gaslight us by putting in the official transcript that the teleprompter cue saying end of quote, repeat the line before starting to repeat the quote. So it says, people, however, were not buying what Simons was trying to sell. It would be something that people would forget about by the end of the day, but when you brazenly lie about it, that keeps it around longer. Washington Examiner magazine editor Jay Caruso. Even if you suppose that is what that Even if you suppose that is what he was supposed to have said or what he meant to say, it is absolutely not what he actually said. The video is right there. He says, and to quote, repeat the line. That's reporter Jerry Dunleavy. You know there's video, writer Charles C.W. Cook. How much acid did you do today? Caleb Hull mocked. Adam Schiff's former comms director trying to convince us that something didn't happen actually did is perfectly on brand. John Cooper of the Heritage Foundation. Ha 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 ha, no he didn't. You're the assistant press secretary. You're lying because it's humiliating to work for a senile puppet. Conservative commentator Liz Wheeler. Oh, okay. I have my issues with Liz Wheeler. I agree with her here. Maybe I'll talk about it later. This is what happens when state media refuses to hold a presidential administration accountable and instead functions as press secretaries for that administration and ruling party, lying boldly and with impunity. They know D.C. journal stenographers won't hold them accountable for it. Christina Pushaw, spokeswoman of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Ironically, Biden did not, in fact, repeat the line completely. So she posted this on Instagram and says, psychosis, marijuana can cause psychosis, violence, addiction, opioid abuse. Most mass shooters in recent history were heavy marijuana users. Why are we ignoring the dangers of marijuana? So I left a comment and I said, I used a bad word because I was mad, but I said, I don't smoke, but I know many people who do, some recreationally and some for medicinal purposes like cancer while doing chemo, and they don't have a violent bone in their bodies. Correlation does not equal causation. People shouldn't speak on things that they know nothing about. And that's true, because just because someone happens to smoke marijuana does not then lead them down a road of being a mass shooter. Some of the people I know that smoke are the most laid back, chill, kindest people that you can ever meet. You have to admit that just because a mass shooter smokes marijuana does not mean that it's the marijuana that caused that. It's all the other deep-rooted trauma and mental illness problems that they have that they might still be a mass shooter even if they didn't smoke marijuana. Just so happens a lot of people smoke nowadays because it's almost legal everywhere now. So I don't like what she said, and I don't think that you should be going around and spreading things like that make no sense, because that's just not... If you don't know what you're talking about, you shouldn't say it. Okay, let's talk about the senator here. This is from Louder with Crowder by Brodigan. So it says, Senator wife arrested transporting their slave to the UK to harvest his kidney in 2022. Read that again. Alright. So the video is blocked, but it says, stop me if you heard this one before. An elected official brings a slave to England to have his kidney harvested, but gets arrested when the slave escapes and tells police, quote, I don't want to have my kidney harvested. That's what's being alleged of Nigerian District Senator Ike Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice Nwanika. Yeah, stupid YouTube. So the story, yes, it's 2022, has the Ekweremadus bringing a 21-year-old man to the UK to harvest his kidney and give it to their daughter. The story originally said the man was a 15-year-old minor, but turns out he's of legal age. So I guess that's at least good. While doing tests for the procedure at the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, yes, the Ekweremadus are alleged to have taken the man to an actual hospital. The man told authorities that he did not consent to have his kidney harvested. The Ekweremadus were then arrested. Unconsensual kidney surgery is frowned upon. A Nigerian delegation has traveled to the UK to make sure they are okay. The BBC reports it's alleged the Ekweremadus treated the man as their slave, an actual slave, not a guy angry at the NFL or someone working for less than $25 an hour. Not the B points out that slavery has been outlawed in Nigeria since 1999, but, there's always a but, quote, slave-like practices, end quote, still occur. It usually involves trading labor for debt or the sex trafficking of women and children. The man in question may have fallen into a latter category at one point, hence the earlier reports he was still 15 years old, but that's just speculation. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if some of our senators did stuff like that, or were representatives. Really, it wouldn't. So, let's talk about Hollywood. Because we were talking about Roe. I wanted to point out how stupid this comment is here. Your miscarriage will make you a murder suspect. This is from Daily Wire by Virginia Kruta. And if you don't know, this guy here, he is Jeffrey Dean Morgan from The Walking Dead is what I know him from most of all. And I do know he was in Supernatural. And this here, she was in One Tree Hill, Hillary Burton, and she played Peyton Sawyer in One Tree Hill. Anyway, so it says, actress Hillary Burton claimed that having an abortion was what allowed her body to heal properly after a miscarriage and eventually carry a healthy pregnancy to term. In a lengthy Instagram post decrying the recent Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, Burton shared a photo of her and The Walking Dead and Supernatural actor Jeffrey Dean Morgan's daughter and claimed that what Roe truly protected was a woman's right to have a miscarriage without being subjected to quote-unquote scrutiny. So it says, this is my child, my beloved, my daughter. It is no secret that I struggled with infertility. Losing multiple pregnancies before her was traumatic. But female bodies are all different and unpredictable. Having an abortion after my fetus died allowed for my uterus to heal in a way that made it healthy enough to carry out future pregnancies. It doesn't matter if you use the term D&C. The official word on the hospital paperwork is abortion. That's what it is. So it sounds like what she's saying is she miscarried and she had to have a D&C to clean out her uterus of the baby that had already died. So no one is going in there and killing a baby. The baby's dead. And they use a D&C to clean out your uterus so that you can heal and you don't get infections. That is not going to be illegal. Man, this is gaslighting and propaganda by mainstream media and these Hollywood idiots. If you have a natural miscarriage, which in medical terms, they've always listed it as spontaneous abortion, meaning you have no control over it. It just happens. They are not going to penalize women for going in and needing a D&C. I almost was going to need a D&C with my miscarriage. Fortunately, I didn't have to get one. But it's like you can't just, sometimes miscarriages don't pass through. And they have to be taken care of so that you can heal and not get infections and die. This is not illegal. Anyway. So it's stupid for her to even think that this is what it means. Burton went on to explain that she used the terms abortion and dilation and curettage, I don't know how you say that, D&C, which cleans any remaining tissue from the uterus either following a chemical or surgical abortion or following a miscarriage interchangeably. The official word on the hospital paperwork is abortion. That's what it was, she argued, adding, you know what would have made that painful day even worse? If abortion had been illegal and law enforcement inspected my body to make sure I hadn't caused my own miscarriage. Because that's what's coming. It's already happened. It was commonplace before Roe v. Wade. And I have no doubt that on paperwork, it's not just listed as abortion. It is going to be listed as a spontaneous abortion. Because there is a difference. Burton went on to claim that what Roe had truly protected was a woman's right, quote, to have miscarriages without scrutiny, and argued that the court's ruling would allow law enforcement to view mothers who miscarried as suspects rather than victims or patients, except all the laws that are restricting abortion are only going to hold the doctors that perform them accountable. All the laws I've looked at, there's no mention of charging the woman, the mother, just the doctors if they continue to practice if it's not legal. She says, quote, think about every loss and then compound it by knowing that the Supreme Court just said it's okay for states to look at you as a murder suspect in that situation. Your miscarriage will make you a murder suspect. I can't say this clearly enough or shout it loud enough. I only have my daughter because of my abortion. So F you very much to the Supreme Court, and F you to the ignorant right-wing extremists who want my daughter to have fewer rights than what I was born with. Hashtag, we will not go back. People are so stupid. Like, use some common sense once in a while. Would be nice. That would be nice. Speaking of idiots, Amber Heard, she's catching another lawsuit that was apparently, quote, caused by the willful acts of Heard. This is Daily Wire's Amanda I always mess up her name. Prestigiacomo says Amber Heard's insurance company on Friday filed suit against the Aquaman actress, contending it does not have to pay any money after Heard's unsuccessful defense in a defamation suit involving her ex-husband Johnny Depp. See, I heard something about her home insurance covering that, and I thought, that's weird. Why would homeowners insurance cover that? But then I also read the story one time about the car insurance paying a woman who contracted supposedly HPV from her boyfriend while having sex in the back of his car. So, what a clown world. A jury last month found that Heard defamed Depp in an op-ed. Okay, we know that. So the jury's factual findings established that Heard's liability is caused by the willful acts of Heard, New York Marine and General Insurance said in a suit filed in federal court. New York Marine says it's not liable for costs associated with an independently appointed defense counsel for the actress. Quote, an actual controversy has arisen and now exists between plaintiff on the one hand and Heard on the other hand with regard to the duties and obligations owed between plaintiff and Heard under the policy with respect to indemnity, the insurance company's complaint further stated. Heard and her legal team have made it clear that the actress does not intend to pay Depp the millions she owes him. Elaine Bredehoff, an attorney for Heard, told NBC Today host Savannah Guthrie last month that her client was absolutely not able to pay Depp. Notably, the actress admitted under oath during the defamation trial that she has not paid the millions of dollars she pledged from her divorce settlement to the Children's Hospital Los Angeles and the American Civil Liberties Union. In court, ACLU General Counsel Terrence Dougherty testified that Heard has not given the full $3.5 million she promised to the organization, the Daily Wire previously reported. Dougherty testified she has so far only provided $1.3 million, and only $350,000 of that was donated by Heard herself. Another $100,000 came from Depp, and $500,000 is believed to have been donated on Heard's behalf by billionaire Elon Musk. Okay. It's also been speculated that Depp won't seek the money from Heard anyway. Yeah, I don't think it was ever about the money for Johnny Depp. It was just about getting the truth out there. And I don't think that he could care any less about getting money from her. Says, I imagine, and if I'm Team Depp, this is what I would do. They'd look at getting an injunction to stop Amber Heard from repeating statements that the jury found were defamatory, and then stipulating that the payments won't be made and there won't be any judgment outstanding, legal analyst Emily D. Baker told People magazine. I watch her on YouTube, along with Nick Rekieta. You should check out some of those people that cover a lot of these things that have to do with the law and courts and things like that. I found Rekieta Law, which is Nick Rekieta, during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I watched the entire thing, streaming with them, and learned a lot. And I watched the entire Depp and Heard trial, and I watched the Kim Potter trial with Nick Rekieta. And I know that he's going to be watching another one. I can't think of his first name, but his last name is Gerhardt. It's a really ridiculous charge that he's been given, and Nick said that he was going to be streaming that, so I'll be watching that one. But like I watched like Nick Rekieta, so Rekieta Law, Legal Mindset, Uncivil Law, Law and Lumber, the DUI guy, Emily D. Baker, Legal Bites. I mean, there's so many of them, and they're really entertaining, to be honest. They truly are. So it says, if he's not interested in the money, I think he's more interested in her not repeating these allegations, Baker added. I agree. Okay, moving on. The purge is coming! Twitter sphere explodes after Elon Musk takes $44 billion deal. Anybody else upset about that? I'm a little upset he's not going to own it, but maybe this was his plan all along. Who knows? This is from the Daily Wire's Virginia Cruda. My feet are falling asleep. So it says, billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk moved to terminate his $44 billion deal to buy Twitter on Friday, prompting a virtual avalanche of commentary from both sides on the social media platform. Musk, who has asked from the beginning for data regarding how many fake or bot accounts there are across the social media site, sent a letter through his attorneys alleging that information had not been provided and demanding that the agreement be terminated. Quote, Mr. Musk and his financial advisors at Morgan Stanley have been requesting critical information from Twitter as far back as May 9th, 2022, and repeatedly since then on the relationship between Twitter's disclosed MDAU figures and the prevalence of false or spam accounts on the platform. Notwithstanding these repeated requests over the past 2 months, Twitter has still failed to provide much of the data and information responsive to Mr. Musk's repeated request. So Dave Rubin responds and says, holy crap, the party really is over here. The purge is coming. Think about the bot manipulation corruption he found out about while doing due diligence. Probably can't say anything because of non-disclosures. This explains Twitter's more brazen suspensions and the increased shadow banning lately. What a crap hole. Yeah, that might be why they banned Jordan Peterson and got on to Dave Rubin for sharing the same tweet that Jordan Peterson was banned for. Rubin continued, this was the last chance that something decent could be salvaged from the nightmare that big tech could become. The time to build new things was a long time ago, Rubin continued. Outkick founder and radio host Clay Travis suggested there still might be more to the situation than meets the eye, noting that the deal could still potentially be renegotiated. Quote, Elon Musk says he's not buying Twitter for $44 billion because of all the bots and fake accounts. Twitter says it's suing him to compel purchase. I'd bet on a lower purchase price being negotiated before all is done here, he said. Well, the communists still run Twitter. Not good. I get why Elon Musk is pulling out of the deal because it's pretty clear there's a spam problem, but cultural Marxists in control of the online public square is not good going into critical elections. Censorship will intensify, and that's Robbie Starbuck. Whoever saw this coming? Oh wait, everybody, MSNBC host Joe Scarborough added. Elon Musk has terminated his deal to buy Twitter, but perhaps he's got something up his sleeve. That's Steven Crowder. And then Twitter responded to the news as well, saying that they intended to hold Musk to the deal. The Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon with Mr. Musk and plans to pursue legal action to enforce the merger agreement. We are confident we will prevail in the Delaware Court of Chancery. But Ashley St. Clair offered an alternative. Quote, Elon Musk should just do a public boxing match with Parag Agrawal. Winner takes Twitter. I'm up for that. I don't like boxing, but I would watch that one. Absolutely. Okay. Moving on. I got to get through all these. Let's talk about Kamala Harris, because we know we have bumbling Biden, but we have cackling Kamala. But she really can't speak either. We shouldn't just make fun of Joe Biden. You know, she's an awful public speaker, and I don't know why anybody thought it'd be a good idea to put her in the VP position. This is from Blaze Media, Paul Saka. Vice President Kamala Harris was stumped by a question about Roe v. Wade and proceeded to give a rambling answer. During a CBS News interview, correspondent Robert Costa asked Harris, quote, when you look back, did Democrats fail, past Democratic presidents, congressional leaders, to not codify Roe v. Wade over the past 5 decades? Harris immediately ceased having eye contact with Costa, looked away, then gave a meandering response. So this is what she said. I think that, to be very honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled. And then Costa quickly rebutted, clearly we're not. And she says, no, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
You don't have to abandon your faith, whatever that might be. To agree, the government should not be making that decision for a woman. And so that's why I say, let women make those most intimate decisions. Let people make the most intimate decisions that are about what I call heart and home, which includes contraception, which includes same-sex marriage. Let them make that and be free to make those decisions without government interference.
When you look back Did Democrats fail, past Democratic presidents, congressional leaders, to not codify Roe v. Wade over the past 5 decades?
I think that, to be very honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right, and that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
What an idiot. Just what an idiot. I don't... a progressive YouTuber, Emma Vigeland, said this is incoherent. Is everything okay? Former digital media advisor to Hillary Clinton, Peter Dow, what is she saying? Radio host Clay Travis, how is it possible that Kamala Harris is this bad at public speaking? Writer Ryan Sangalia, captions need a bouncing ball to follow along with the words. The Simpsons writer Brody Gupta, Kamala Harris talks like she has a translator earpiece on and it has water damage. Republican consultant Aaron Perrine, Biden-Harris, the Ron Burgundy word salad chef administration. Radio host Eric Erickson, holy cow, what a bad answer. This is going to cause a Dem revolt. The GOP has been fighting after this for decades, but the Dems thought it settled, so did nothing. Editor Curtis Hawk, what is with this administration and an aversion to basic speaking skills and grasp of the English language? Kamala was also mocked this week for being seriously repetitive while giving a speech at the site of the July 4th parade shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. This is what she said. And we'll deal with what we need to deal with in terms of also, as we move forward, all agreeing that we've got to be smarter as a country in terms of who has access to what, and in particular, assault weapons. And we got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously. The whole nation should understand and have a level of empathy to understand that this can happen anywhere, in any peace-loving community, and we should stand together and speak out about why it's got to stop.
Madam Vice President?
I don't know. On Friday, Harris met with state legislative leaders from Indiana, Florida, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Montana who are seeking to expand abortion in their states. Harris was repetitive once again. Wait, seeking to expand abortion? Florida wouldn't be expanding it. The vice president uttered, well, this really does highlight the importance of elections and who will be elected in terms of who gets elected.
Well, this really does highlight the importance of elections. In terms of who gets elected and what voice they carry at moments.
She also said we cannot wait for Congress to act. Congress must act, but also we cannot wait for Congress to act. I can't anymore. Okay. So there's a California law that may backfire terribly as 70,000 independent truckers could be forced out of work, unleashing devastating supply chain misery. So this is from Blaze Media by Paul Saka, and I feel like this is really important because everybody's struggling right now. But it says, a California law threatens to unleash more supply chain misery and inflation on residents of the Golden State by forcing independent truckers out of the workforce. California Assembly Bill 5 was introduced by former state Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, a Democrat, and signed into law in September 2019 by California Governor Gavin Newsom. AB 5 called for, quote, a person providing labor or services for remuneration shall be considered an employee rather than an independent contractor unless the hiring entity demonstrates that the person is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work, the person performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business, and the person is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business. So certain professions were exempt from AB 5, including insurance agents, healthcare professionals, investment advisors, realtors, barbers, and fishermen. However, truckers were not exempt from AB 5. AB5 targeted independent contractors who were app-based delivery and rideshare drivers. Ironically, companies like Uber, Lyft, and Postmates were exempted from AB5 after Proposition 22 was passed in November 2020. The trucking industry has been fighting the law ever since it went into effect and secured an injunction that prevented AB5 from including independent truckers in January 2020. California Attorney General Xavier Becerra called on U.S. District Judge Roger T. Benitez to reverse the injunction. Quote, the district court also abused its discretion in assessing the remaining preliminary injunction factors, erroneously concluding that plaintiffs established irreparable harm despite the fact that they waited over 19 months to seek injunctive relief and giving short shift to the state's interest in addressing misclassification of state employees. This court should reverse. On June 28, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review the U.S. of the California truckers battling against AB5. Quote, this ruling really took everybody off guard, especially at the speed that they kicked this back and essentially made it law. Paul Brashear, vice president of a commercial transport company, told CBS News. Now the truckers must be employees of trucking companies and not independent contractors in order to be able to work in California. However, there seems to be confusion on how the law will be enforced. Narita Taylor, Director of Public Relations for the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, informed Bloomberg, quote, we have never gotten any good answers from anyone official in California on how this is supposed to be enforced or how our members can comply. If the law is enforced, California faces a possible mass exodus of the state's estimated 70,000 independent truckers. The Port of Oakland is especially vulnerable if the independent truckers are forced out of work. There's 9,000 trucks that serve the port on a daily basis, and 90% of them are independent, so this is a big impact. Bill Abadi, owner of AB Trucking in Oakland. It just doesn't work. You own your own truck. It's your truck. I can't take possession of it and start using it. In a case like my company, we just eliminate owner-operators and just reduce the workload. Kevin McMaster, vice president of carrier sales at Flock Freight, noted this would cause a ripple effect in the industry, pushing many drivers who don't want to apply for their own authority to lease out of state, likely in Arizona or Nevada, and even force some into retirement due to increased market pressures. There will likely be pressure added on capacity in California that could exacerbate an already tough environment where drivers are at a premium. It's going to adversely affect everybody, and at the end of the day, with where we are with inflation being as high as it is, this is going to put inflationary pressure on the consumer, right? The California Trucking Association delivered a warning, quote, gasoline has been poured on the fire that is our ongoing supply chain crisis. In addition to the direct impact on California's 70,000 owner-operators who have 7 days to cease long-standing independent businesses, the impact of taking tens of thousands of truck drivers off the road will have devastating repercussions on an already fragile supply chain, increasing cost and worsening runaway inflation. Lorena Gonzalez, who authored AB5 and resigned from the state assembly in January, had no sympathy for the truckers. Quote, they've known for the last 2.5 years that it was equally possible that this injunction would not hold. This is not a shot. The fact that trucking companies will have to abide by basic labor laws in California takes us one step closer to rebuilding the middle class that was almost deregulated out of existence. And she tweeted that, and she's now the head of the California Labor Federation. On Wednesday, California Republican lawmakers implored Democratic Governor Newsom to either delay the implementation of the law or exempt truckers from AB5. So, there's that one. If you haven't heard, there's a story going around with this executive order that Biden has signed about allowing abortions. They brought up this story about a 10-year-old in Ohio being raped, and now she's pregnant and needs an abortion. Allie Beth Stuckey really did a good deep dive, and you can find it on her Twitter threads. And it's just very hard to verify this story to be true. There's really no way to verify it. And everything that Allie Beth Stuckey posted about the interviews and the doctor involved in doing all the interviews, just a lot of red flags are thrown up about this not actually being true. So I don't know if I don't want to read the whole thing, but the story comes from the Indianapolis Star article that was published on July 1st. And the Indianapolis Star depended on a single source for the article, Dr. Caitlin Bernard. She's an obstetrician gynecologist and a devout abortion advocate. Quote, On Monday, 3 days after the Supreme Court issued its groundbreaking decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, Dr. Caitlin Bernard, an Indianapolis OBGYN, took a call from a colleague, a child abuse doctor in Ohio. The article highlighted how Ohio instituted a trigger law banning abortions after 6 weeks, hours after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The article noted that the girl missed the cutoff by 3 days. The Indianapolis Star story garnered international coverage, and the story was picked up by the Daily Mail, The Independent, The Guardian, The Jerusalem Post, and MSNBC's Mattelblog. CNN weaponized the story to confront South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem on her pro-life opinions. So on Saturday, the Washington Post cast doubt on the story, saying, quote, "The only source cited for the anecdote was Bernard. She's on the record, but there's no indication that the newspaper made other attempts to confirm her account. The story's lead reporter, Sherry Budvaski, did not respond to a query asking whether additional sourcing was obtained." And also, if you look into it, there doesn't seem to be any police investigation going on, because this is supposedly a 10-year-old child who was being abused and was raped and is now pregnant, but there's no investigation on who did it. They're more concerned about killing her child. Kessler pointed out under Ohio law, a position as a mandated reporter under Ohio Revised Code 2151.421 would be required to report any case of known or suspected physical, sexual, or emotional abuse or neglect of a child to their local child welfare or law enforcement agency. So Bernard's colleague would have had to make such a report to law enforcement at the same time he or she contacted Bernard. Presumably, then a criminal case would have been opened. However, no law enforcement agencies on local, state, or federal levels had reported a report or an arrest of the rape suspect of a 10-year-old girl. Liberal-friendly fact-checker Snopes added, quote, "As of this writing, Bernard had not returned our request for an interview, and we had not been able to independently corroborate the abortion claim." PJ Media writer Megan Fox raised suspicions about the child rape story in an in-depth Twitter thread posted on July 5th. Oh, it was Megan Fox. My bad. It was not Allie Beth Stuckey. Megan Fox. I got them confused. A pregnant 10-year-old is evidence of a heinous crime against a child, but in every article, and there are so many, there is no mention of criminal investigation, no police involvement, not even a town where this allegedly occurred. Also this week, AOC allegedly spread misinformation regarding abortions when she claimed that ectopic pregnancies are illegal when they are reportedly legal in the entire United States. The Washington Post concluded, quote, "This is a very difficult story to check. Bernard is on the record, but obtaining documents or other confirmation is all but impossible without details that would identify the locality where the rape occurred." Kessler noted that with multiple international news outlets covering the alleged 10-year-old rape victim story, plus President Biden giving it credence that the story had acquired a status of a fact, no matter its provenance. Okay. So, highly doubt the story is even true. I really do. I don't know where we're at on time. I don't know how long I've been going. Been an hour. Okay, well, I won't do the last story. It's already been an hour, so I'll just end the episode here. I can cover it on the next one, no problem. I think it just... Definitely doing the woke churches video, I think, took up some time as well. Anyway... so we'll end it here. I hope you had a good time hanging out with me. Don't forget to go to my YouTube channel, watch and share my videos there. Like them, leave comments, but subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And my Rumble, just got to say something. Please go there, because I'm not censored there at all, and I don't have to edit anything out if I say something that will get me deplatformed on YouTube for sure. And you can go to my Linktree, where it links you to all my social media accounts. I'm the most active on Twitter. And I really appreciate all of the support. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and God bless.